So, my last video was a fairly dense project with a lot of criticism directed at some elements of Ultimate's clone designs. Seems like a good time to make more of a palette cleanser and talk about the 5 characters whose designs I consider to be the absolute biggest success stories so far in the game. Alright, the concept of a well-designed Smash character will change quite a bit depending on who you ask, so here are a couple points of criteria that I personally looked at when I was making this list. Will the player feel restricted in an unexpected way? For example, restricted mobility would be an expected part of playing a heavyweight or a zoner, but not so much a rushdown character. Does the character allow the player to express themselves and play in a manner that suits their personality? This typically translates to having options, which generally will push my selections towards the upper part of the tier list, although strength isn't directly part of the criteria I'm looking at. Are they working as intended by the developer, i.e. do their moves do what they were clearly designed to do, or do you get a lot of unintended interactions? Do they sell the fantasy of playing them? Does the heavyweight feel crushing? Does the swordsman emphasize spacing? And will fans of the series they came from feel that they're fairly represented? This does include visual and sound design. I know not everyone will consider this a valid criteria point for evaluating a competitive character, but in my opinion these traits are inseparably connected to the overall experience of playing them in a way that doesn't make sense to ignore. And of course, it would be great if they were fun. How exactly do you decide what qualifies as fun? Subjectively, like everything in this video. I also think a lot of people would exclusively pull from characters that you might consider very honest, and while my list does lean that way to a degree, I don't consider the concept of what you might call cheese to be inherently negative. In excess it obviously can be, but I think a little bit of spice to keep things entertaining and suspenseful can be a great addition to a character's kit. Alright, that's your insight into my thought process. Let's get into the list. Everyone seems to love Terry, despite being one of the more obscure DLC releases for North Americans. He's clearly most known for power dunk setups, and it's a cool signature move to have for sure, but Terry's moveset overall is as large and complex as you'd expect from a traditional fighter while also being very well rounded. This makes Mr. Bogard an incredibly expressive character, and his strongest players don't look remotely similar to each other in action. Of course, being DLC, Terry needs a little something extra. In this case, his 2 super special moves, Buster Wolf and Power Geyser. These are obviously very strong, but not outrageously so, considering that they only activate at over 100%, meaning that they always put Terry in a kill or be killed scenario that creates many tense, exciting gameplay moments while feeling well balanced by comeback mechanic standards. Terry imports the ability to cancel many of his attacks into special moves that the Shoto characters originated, and also brings additional tech such as charge partitioning to the table, which gives him an extremely high skill cap while being surprisingly easy to pick up and get a solid feel for thanks to his excellent ground normals and projectile. My biggest gripe with Terry is the same one I have with Ryu and Ken. Special inputs can be a bit finicky with Ultimate's buffer system, particularly online, and the strange decision to make them usable with the A button means that you'll find yourself doing them unintentionally sometimes, almost necessitating the C stick for your aerials in many scenarios. It's not an issue dedicated players can't work with though, and they'll be rewarded with a flashy, complex, entertaining as hell character who strongly honors the series he came from while also feeling right at home. Ultimate's Link is the most agile, freeform take on the character we've seen yet. Traditionally, Link in Smash has been heavily centralized around pulling bombs and mid-range distance mix-ups using his sword and his hookshot, both on the ground and in the air. This time though, having received a significant overhaul to align with his Breath of the Wild appearance as well as the increased pace of Ultimate's gameplay, Link can effortlessly switch between high-pressure aerial aggression and defensive zoning with his recurring arsenal. The remote bomb itself is among the most unique items we've ever seen in a Smash game, and the decision-making process for how and when to use it permeates every aspect of Link's style and makes it easy to find your own voice. Say you've got your opponent off stage. You can throw the bomb at them, you can Z drop it off the ledge, you can throw it onto the ledge and follow up your pressure with any amount of traps, among many other options. If you need it to get back on stage yourself, there are multiple setups you can use to make this happen. The bomb essentially gives every move in his kit additional uses, but they're already exceptionally versatile. Spin attack is one of the most utility-heavy up specials in the game. His aerials make use of single hits, multi-hits, sour and sweet spots to accomplish any number of actions, and crucially, his other projectiles are more diverse than they've ever been and add considerable creativity to his ranged gameplay. This feels like Link. Despite some legacy moveset holdovers from his Smash 64 days, to me he still feels very much like you're playing the same character for one of Nintendo's greatest adventures with a truly unlimited number of playstyles available to explore. He's on the lower end here simply because if you just want to run away with neutral air and boomerang, that is a viable option, and some people may admittedly find that annoying, particularly online. But I consider the average character in Ultimate to be well designed, so make no mistake, any appearance on this list is high praise from me. I've spoken highly about Roy on the channel before, and there's a reason for this. After multiple rough installments where he struggled to find his footing, Ultimate feels like a near flawless execution of this aggro swordsman idea, where in previous entries his design concept has faltered due to a myriad of issues with hitboxes and frame data. Roy's place in popular consciousness arguably comes less from the Fire Emblem series itself and more from Masahiro Sakurai's Smash interpretation of the character. Sakurai assumed that Roy should be hot-headed and energetic, which comes through in Smash as an extremely quick and aggressive fighter whose every neutral win could potentially spell disaster for his opponent. As if he needed more help selling that fantasy, a large chunk of his moveset now lights you on fire, which may be entirely visual, but the satisfaction it adds to landing his attacks is hard to overstate. Speaking of his attacks, the unique close-range sweet spot mechanic gives Roy's combo game a surprising amount of depth, as while players who pick him up will initially catch on to the reckless spacing his design encourages, they'll later start to notice more and more utility with the low knockback sour spots as well. While Roy's overall game plan is more homogeneous than the other characters on this list, your awareness and utilization of both the close and far spacing of his sword is a major skill tester and style differentiator. This adds up to a fan-favorite glass cannon who's easy to understand but hard to master, looks and feels incredibly cool in action, and has just enough cheese to keep opponents on their toes without being egregious, as his strongest setups are typically possible to watch out for. He revels in powerful, high-octane gameplay while also being a very nuanced character, making him an easy inclusion on this list. Wolf is the fighter for everyone. If you want to play a sword character, his forward air, up air, and forward tilt have you covered. If you want a zoner or a counter zoner, let me introduce you to his transcendent laser, quick reflector, and high air mobility. If you want a brawler, he can do that. If you want a flashy clip character, he can do that. Wolf is a strange combination of different archetypes bolted onto each other, which on paper doesn't really seem like it should work, but it absolutely does, as he teaches you every aspect of the game from zoning to tech chasing, but also comes equipped with quite a high skill cap. His initial combo game is fairly easy to understand, but his more potent setups require a lot of labbing, intuition, and understanding of your opponent's habits, and can herd characters in different directions depending on what your intentions are. Wolf really can be played however you like, whether that's patient zoning with his blaster or ankle-breaking Wolf Flash kamikaze combos, and also feels phenomenal to move around with. His animations and attributes have a gratifying heft to them. Now, does he feel like Wolf from the Star Fox games? That's a bit hard to say, as it's rare to see him either playable or on foot, and he also doesn't really have a long Smash history to pull from. However, does he feel like a combination of a high-tech mercenary and a feral, ruthless animal? I'd say yes. Helped out by phenomenal custom sound design and particle effects, Wolf really is the full package, as his popularity within both the casual and competitive scenes can attest to. The Ice Climbers have been very contentious in previous Smash games due to relatively simple, guaranteed 0 to deaths off of a single grab, but in Ultimate they're an incredibly cool and elaborate setup character which constantly tests both players' awareness of the game around them. I can't put them on this list in good faith for a couple of reasons. I'm not totally convinced that they won't return to their old ways at some point as new discoveries continue to pop up, and the second Ice Climber's artificial intelligence is pretty questionable and can lead to some bad scenarios. Still, I think they certainly deserve a nod. Further honorable mentions go to Fox and Sheik, who both feel like excellent expressions of their archetypes, but are each largely a slightly more limited version of a previous incarnation of the character. Whether that should actually be a factor in a list like this or whether they should be evaluated in a vacuum is up for debate, but considering how big the shortlist for this video was, it seems like an appropriate breakpoint. 3 characters in one, all of who feel like complete, faithful renditions of their canonical iterations while also working cohesively to create a fighter even greater than the sum of its parts. I was a fan of Pokemon Trainer before Ultimate even launched, but after balance patches transformed it from Ivysaur and friends to a fleshed out character where every Pokemon has a significant role to play, it takes my top slot as the best designed character in Ultimate. The ability to express yourself with them should be pretty self-explanatory. While mastery of this character requires a strong grasp of each of the starters, watch top players and you'll see them all lean on different Pokemon for different situations. The characters are naturally oriented more towards combos, controlling space, and recovery and raw kill power, but these are not shallow toolkits. Apart from being down a special move, they play like their own fully formed fighters and can all perform each of these actions to some degree. We regularly see cool moments appear with all of them, and the Pokeball's Frame 1 invincibility gives you even greater incentive to learn the nuances of each Pokemon individually, much like a Pokemon trainer. It's a powerful dodge at the cost of instantly requiring a different mindset from the player who took advantage of that power. Now, despite the immense praise I have for this design, there are still a few slight issues. There always are. While using a special move to cancel the Pokemon trainer's animation and let you switch Pokemon faster is a cool bit of tech, it's pretty clearly unintentional, not particularly intuitive, and can probably be cleaned up. I suggest something that also fixes my other issue with them: the set rotation. It would be cool to let you skip the queue directly from, for example, Squirtle to Charizard, maybe by double tapping or holding the button during down specials. I don't really know why this needs to be part of their design. That said, it's the smallest of complaints, and when we're given a fighter who represents such beloved characters so well, and allows the player to use them so fluidly, I have no trouble giving Pokemon Trainer my choice for the best character design in all of Ultimate. Maybe in any Smash game. Maybe. Thanks for watching, everyone, and hey, if you liked it, why not leave a like? You've heard my list, and if you feel like making one of your own, please feel free to drop it in the comments. But before that, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, follow me on Twitter at Mr. Mockrock to see what I'm up to, and check me out on Patreon for exclusive content, early video access, Discord discussions, and even more cool rewards. Later, people! The few overlapping points they have in common are clearly intentional, with different animations and properties. Animations are a key thing to look at here, for the record. According to Crowfall's lead animator, professionals will take a full workday to produce. Today we take a deeper look at only the biggest of big moves Smash Ultimate has to offer, why they don't see much play on the tournament stage, and what you can do if you are desperate to pull them off. To clarify...